Hi all, this is Carrie Zahar. This is a follow-up video to the one that I posted yesterday showing you how to stack lead lists on top of each other. When you stack your lead list, you find the properties that are the most distressed and potentially the most motivated seller. So today what I'm going to do is show you how to do it, how to stack your leads if you have more than 2 lists. Yesterday I showed you how to do it with 2 lists. Today you're going to do more than 2. I have 3 lists here. I have the code violations from February 2019, the city liens from February of 2019, and the fire structures from February of 2019. What I want to do is I want to see which addresses appear on 2 or 3 of these lists. The things I have at the top on the top row and in columns D, E, and F here, these are related to the data cleansing that I showed how to do in the video yesterday. I would highly recommend that you do that if your data, that you watch that video, if your data is not consistently formatted. And the reason things that might make the data inconsistently formatted is if one list has the word street ST and another list were to spell out the word STREET, and then maybe another list says STR. I wanted to eliminate those occurrences that could create differences in the data. And so if you go watch the video yesterday, I showed you how to get all the data in a consistent format. And that's what we have here. So I am going to copy all 3 of these lists into a new Excel file, all on the same tab. So I'm hitting Control Shift and the down arrow. And I will copy these into this list I started over here. And these, I want to know what list they're from. So these are code violations. And I will get my little plus arrow there and copy that down to the bottom. I'll scroll down here and get to the first empty row. And I will paste my city liens to the bottom of that. So let's go to the city liens, copy the addresses over. There. So these are city liens. It'll become clear in a minute why it's important to copy the list that it came from as well. And now we will go to the fire structures and I'll copy that over. And I'll drop this on the bottom. Make this big so you can see it a little bit better. I'll get my plus sign and copy that all the way down. So now what I have is a list of all 3 of my lists all together. The data is all consistently formatted and they're all in the same file. I'm going to use this data on both of the methods that I'll show you today. So let me go copy the raw data over there. And I will sort it ascending because I like to see it ascending, because what that does is that gets all the addresses that could potentially be the same addresses next to each other. And this is really easy. What you can do is you can come to your, well, let's highlight the column. Come to your conditional formatting, highlight cell rules. There's a duplicate values rule set. And if you use that, then you can filter for everything that is highlighted. And now you can see your addresses that are appearing on more than one list. As you can see, there is one address that's on the city lien list twice. This can happen if you have apartments where you've removed the apartment number because you were normalizing the addresses to get them all to look the same. So that's one of the reasons why it's really important for you to keep your record of what list you got it from when you're copying everything over. So this is one way to do it. It's a little bit more manual because you'll have to look through and see where your duplicates are to find all 3. So you can see this one is on all 3, but I had to look to see that. The next method I'm going to show you, you don't have to look. It will be really apparent which one has all 3. So let's jump over into pivot tables. Pivot tables sound really scary, but they're not. They're pretty easy to figure out and to play around with. First thing you'll want to do is highlight the entire area that you want to pivot on top of each other. I want to do the entire file, so I did the whole thing. You could also just do a few columns. We're going to insert a pivot table. So we come here to the insert tab, pivot table, and I like to just leave the existing settings there. It already, because I had it highlighted before I hit this button, it knows that I already want to use the highlighted cells and it pre-filled that for me. And then it's going to put my pivot table in a new worksheet, which is easy. And this gives me the structure. Now I'm ready to start dragging and dropping. I know that I want my rows to be all my different addresses, and I want my columns to be the list name. What I want in the middle of the table are my counts, and I want the counts of every time the address appears on that list. So I can copy my address into my sum of values. And now what I have is I have a list, or I have a table that shows me all my addresses, which list they appear on, and how many times they appear in that list. But most importantly, I have a grand total, which shows me the number of times this address appears altogether. So I will create a values only of my pivot, because then it will allow me to filter this data. So I'm copying these tables, or this table, and I'm going to paste special. I just want to see the values. I don't want any of the other data that could potentially mess me up, or any of the other formatting that could mess me up. I'll add a filter here through my data tab. And now I'll go to the grand total and I will filter out all the ones that only appear on one list and the total columns and the blank columns. Now, as you can see, I can very quickly identify which ones are my duplicates, the number of lists that they appear on, and more so, I can see which ones appear more than once on the same list. So I know when I'm looking at this very quickly that I don't care about this address, because while it does appear twice, both of the times it does appear is on the same list. So I have these lists here of these addresses that are potentially more distressed than others. And if I just wanted to see my most distressed property, the one that is appearing on all three lists, that is this property right here. I will tell you that this one actually only appeared on 2 of the lists, but I wanted to give you an example of what it looks like when one appears on all 3 lists. So I did copy this one over. And this is old data anyway, so you can't really get anything from it. But so I don't recommend spending time trying to trace this lead down, because it probably won't get you very far, because it's not truly appearing on all 3 lists. But now you can see what it looks like if it would appear on all 3 lists, because I manually added it to all 3. So this is how you can stack leads if you have more than one list. If you had 4, 5, 6, you could do them all the same way, and save yourself a lot of time by doing it this way, rather than trying to manually go through and do the comparison yourself. All right, thank you. Let me know if you have any more questions. Feel free to drop it in the comments to this video or on the Facebook group.